you find the content of it funny, or just because it was about religion? And
Yeah,
sometimes
she would have sent it to me.
sometimes religion people don't find like funny. People are very serious when it comes to religion.
Yeah, because it could be a bit risky, can't
Yeah,
it?
like I can definitely see why people get offended.
Right. Okay.
If you're religious
Right.
like that.
Right.
Because the reason why that skit kind of came about is because, whether you know or don't know, I used to be a debater at a place called Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
So I
Speaker's
used
Corner, yes.
So I used to
Hyde
debate
Park.
religion.
Yeah.
I used to debate religion for years.
Mm.
So yeah.
As in against it.
As in, yeah, you could say against it, but more so critique. I would say critiquing it.
Any specific religion or
Both,
just religions
both Christianity
on the
and
whole?
Islam, like Judeo-Christianity
those
and
two
Islam.
specifically.
Yeah, but like the Abrahamic religions. I
What
used
is
to
your
critique
problem with them?
So my actual my political stance as a black person is what they will call a black nationalist. So I'm about the forward movement of black people. I want black people to do better for themselves. I want them to help themselves up the social economic ladder. I find that religion, when it comes to black people, stops that. And when I say it stops it, I believe that it stops it with the way in which black people think about... Black people, for me, they're very spiritual people. We've always been a very spiritual people. But a lot of when it comes to like Judeo-Christianity and Islam, we've taken on... This is just my own personal opinion now. We've taken on belief systems that are not of our own. They're someone else's.
Yeah.
And so I believe that images shape your reality. So I've always said, when you see the Nike tick, you don't even have to say anything. You can put that Nike tick all around the world and people will know. What's that? That's a Nike. What's Nike? Oh, it's a company that make trainers, or blah, blah, blah. Because of the image. And I've said to many times, said black people, if our image of God is of a white dude, for instance, right? And that's the image that's imprinted in your head, then who are you really praying to? Like, who are you following? Because that image, if you put the image of that white Jesus, which is fine for people who follow him, but I'm just saying, as an image, no one else, when it comes to people, follow an image that doesn't look like them.
Understand.
Hindus don't follow a white God. You know what I mean? Chinese don't follow a white God.
Okay.
White people don't follow a black God.
Interesting.
But then black people follow a white God.
Interesting.
And I'm saying, if white people were following a black God, they might see black people differently, because their God looks like me. Do you know what I mean? Their God would look like me. So if you can say to that, what must it be like if black people's God looks white? What must it be like to us? How do we treat other people?
Yeah.
And
I never thought about that.
yeah, like who's imprinted in your mind as God? Do you know what I mean? And I don't not believe in like some divine essence thing. I'm not like an atheist, but I'm just saying, to black people, we've taken on, even when it comes to Islam, they talk about Muhammad, and I'm like, that's not black people either. That's an Arab person. So
But it's the closest we've got.
right, but I'm saying, but what my thing is, because I'm a student of history, so I'm like, if you go back into antiquity and you go back to black people prior to being with, or prior to the invasions, because these religions essentially were invaders into Africa, if you know about the history of Africa. So we weren't originally Muslim, we weren't originally Christian, we had our own systems. So my son, I named him after a king of Nubia. So Nubia was an African civilization. They got pyramids, they got monuments and all this kind of stuff, right? And so that's going back to BC times.
Okay.
So if I said I'm going to name my son after a powerful black king, right? So we had powerful black kings. We had our spiritual system then, because it can still be looked at, because Nubia and Egypt, they've got all of the hieroglyphics and you can see it. And I'm not saying to follow it. I'm saying we had our own system.
Just to be aware of it.
Yeah, we had our own system. And then these ones came in and told us that our systems were bad and we've got to take these ones.
Yeah.
Whereas our systems had gods that looked like us.
Yeah.
So if you think of yourself and you can see yourself in the image of God, then how would you treat your brother and sister? That's my whole thing.
No, that's
like,
so it's
That
very
makes sense.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I can only give my experience, which is kind of is the reason why that I am a little bit. I'm not kind of attached to that at all,
Right.
because my dad's a Rasta,
right.
which has got a whole
Yeah.
other thing again, isn't it?
It's very Ethiopian centered.
So then you've got Haile Selassie, who obviously does look you know,
like a black
us,
person. Yeah.
And their Rastafarians' whole thing, and you know, that their whole belief system is, well, first of all, they, as far as I know from what my dad's told me, is Rastas don't actually like to be put themselves in a category of being a religion, because that then means that, well, once you say religion, you are basically categorizing, and you're saying, right,
It's like
yes,
an
yeah,
organization.
so you've got to look like this, you've got to act like this, you've got to follow this. Whereas, so to be a Rasta, yes, okay, you will find a lot of Rastas have got dreadlocks,
But they don't all.
but you don't necessarily have to. Do you know what I mean? That's not. You can just you could look like me and be a Rasta, you know, because it's what's in here,
Right.
and it's the way in which that you live your life, and it's the way in which you treat others, and it's the way, you know, that you incorporate. For them, actually, I think they take all the goodness from the different religions, inverted commas. So obviously, a lot of it being from Buddhists. You know, that they'll take all the good stuff and kind of just be them, and you don't have to do or be anything. You don't have to smoke weed. You don't have to, you know, as I say, have
But one of the
locks.
things I said to people about religion is that when you speak to religious people, they will tell you that God is limitless. God, you can't limit God.
Right.
And so my whole thing was, when I'm critiquing it and I'm looking at it, I'm saying, well, if this thing is limitless, why is it now limited itself to a book?
And to follow this.
And to follow this. So I said, if this thing is limitless, that means I can access this energy, force, divine power via anything. I can probably find it in Hinduism. I could probably find it in Buddhism. I could probably find it in Islam. I could probably find it in Judaism. Why is it limited to the one that you follow?
Do you think that Christianity, in that way, though, that we kind of think of it as, you know, maybe anti going to church every Sunday and, you know, giving her money, and yes, reading her Bible every night and every morning. Do we think that that is slowly in the new generation now diminishing?
I think the new generation of people are becoming more fact and logic based.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? More logic. And that's where I argue from, if I'm totally honest. When I speak to a religious person, I argue from something that's more factual and logical. Because I've said, I had a debate at Speaker's Corner once, and I said to this religious person, I said, who was the first man and woman? And they say Adam and Eve.
Okay,
and then
as we know it.
Yeah, and I said, well, according to all science, both anthropological, archaeological, and scientific, they say that black people are the first people on the planet. So I said, are you telling me that the first black man was called Adam?
Stop. Dead.
So I said the first woman couldn't have been called Eve, and the first man couldn't have been called Adam. It doesn't make any logical sense, because those terminologies weren't even in linguistics at the time when black people were walking the earth. So they were like, oh no, but you know, it was, and I'm like, no, but it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, I understand that you believe it. And I've said to people, you can believe what you want.
Because people do want something to believe in.
And I said, but if you're going to come to me and debate me about things, I'm going to use logic, and you're probably not going to like it. You're probably going to get offended by it, because I'm going to tell you, the first man couldn't have been called Adam. It makes absolutely no sense. What African was running around with the name Adam?
Oh my God.
It's like, you might as well just call him John.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You might as well call him Dave.
No, but people are gonna be like, because you are gonna stop people in their tracks when you say things like that, because, and obviously people won't want to admit that there is logic in what you're saying, because how are you gonna come now and just kind of all of the thoughts that I've had for the last however many years.
I believe this, like, oh.
Yeah, that's.
But I'm saying when you break down the pictures, Adam and Eve are these two white people, and we know from the scientific evidence that if black man and black woman were the first man and woman on the earth, that means humanity came from the black man and black woman. So how are the first man and woman white? I said to them, whose story is this? Whose story are you reading? Because it's not ours.
The problem is we'll never ever know. Really.
Right, you never know the names of the first people.
We won't.
You never know the exact location of where the first people were. You'll never know the first language of the first people. You just never know.
We're just never going to know.
We choose to, like I said, human beings create these stories.
Yeah.
I've always said human beings create these stories, and other people attach themselves onto it, and then they go with it.
And a lot of people do attach themselves because, like, I think you said this, Asha, people just need things to believe in.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, when something's not working right, it's all right.
Yeah,
I've got
God's
God on
got
my
me.
side.
God's
He's
got
got
me.
me. And I believe that story, because as long as I believe that, it works.
Yes.
And this is what I say about when I think about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
If you believe it, you can achieve it.
Yeah, of
you
course.
can make it make sense in your head, and
100%.
it can work. So
100%.
and I think that's what a lot of people do with religion. They need that thing to believe in, because now I've got purpose.
But then I said, whose one is the right one? Because you all argue that the Muslim will argue with the Christian, and the Christian will argue with the Muslim, and the Muslim will argue with the Jew, and the Jew will argue with the Muslim.
Story.
But then I said, but if I'm a police officer, and all of you say you got the truth, I say, okay, let me investigate. All of you got the truth? Yeah, we've all got the truth. All right, cool. Tell me the truth. E tells me one story, E tells me another story, E tells me another story. I'm gonna be like, hang on a minute. You said all you guys said you got the truth, but you told me 3 different stories. So if you all got the truth, how come you got 3 different stories? So I'm like, you know what? And when you guys come up with the story, just let me know. Yeah, let me know.
So I mean, so really, like we said, we're never going to really know. I don't think in our lifetime, and it's the story's only going to become more and more or less. We're going to be able. We're not going. We're going to understand it less and less, because it's going to become less and less available. I guess, if that makes sense. The facts are going to become less available, because the more
further
that
we
go
get
on
from
in
that time.
Do you know what I mean? So for me personally, I think the truth is just be love.
But that's where your truth is, though. I've always said your truth is in here.
Yeah.
It's not somewhere else. It's not someone else's truth. It's your one.
Yeah.
There are things that are factual. Are we sitting on a sofa? Yeah, that's the truth. Fine, that's the fact. But you, when it comes to what you believe in, that's your truth. Whatever, you could have had an experience yesterday that I have no idea about, and you tell me it, and I'm going to be like, that sounds stupid. That's nonsense. But you know you had it.
Yeah.
So you can't force it on me and say, listen, Sarah, you got to believe me. I'm going to be like, but I never experienced it, though. You experienced it. So your truth is your truth. And everyone's trying to superimpose their truths onto people, not realizing that you can't do that.
You just got to live your life.
You've got to live yours, live your truth.
But I do feel like, in general, that's what social media is doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my opinion, and you're going to hear it, and you're going to listen to it, and you're going to pay attention.
And if you don't like it, then I'll give you an X.
Yeah.
As opposed to let me listen to yours.
Yeah.
And maybe I can get something from it, and we can learn from each other. Maybe. How about that? And then the world's going to be a better place.
For me, it's the most arrogant and egotistical way to be. To think that because you feel something, everyone else must feel it.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, people got their own shit going on, man.
You're be fighting. Because that you are going to literally be fighting for the rest of time in that way.
Every
I think.
day.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah,
every day you're going to be fighting.
To me.
It's like what Danny says that. Nah, Danny's talking nonsense, man. You need to do what Sarah does. It's like, who are you, bruv?
I mean, they do say that quite often.
Like, who are you? Who are you, bruv? Like, why must we follow you all of a sudden?
Oh,
who gave you that authority? And
there should be a new. Well, okay, so then Dan, you mentioned about the universe and obviously the energies in which that's how we deal with our daily practices, isn't it? And that's how we get down.
I mention the universe.
And I think with that, it's less forceful, isn't it? Because you can. That's your choice if you want to go on to, I guess, a YouTube or find a podcast or find something that, like you said this morning, you woke up feeling a little bit. You went on YouTube, and the one that you wanted was just right there. You listened to it, you did your thing, and you felt better.
Right.
You know, you didn't start. I mean, we might send things to each other, and it'd be like, if you want to listen to this, it might help you, but it's not a forceful thing, is it?
Yeah.
So, do you think that kind of the astrology and all the kind of energy and, you know, let's all just pray to the universe and do all that, do you think that is a less forceful way basically of
do you know what
dealing with daily strife, if you know what I mean?
I would say for me, but it is just what works for me. Like when I first started I first dived into the law of attraction, I read the book The Secret, it made sense to me. In what I was going through at a time in my life, like this must have been about 12 years ago, I was like, oh my God, so I just got to ask, believe and receive.
Okay.
Like this sounds nice. Simple. I just got to think positive instead of like taking on someone else's energy and someone's negativity, and I feel good. So I was like, right, let's try this. I'd done it. It made sense to me and it worked.
Right.
And it's worked ever since. It's
worked ever since. And at the time, like with people that were close to me, I'd be like, law of attraction. Just got to ask, receive, and believe. But I'm not imposing it on you. So I would say to people, they're like, yeah, Dan, you're crazy. But like,
if you don't ask, receive, and believe, then you're going to hell.
Yeah, it's none of that. But people could say, like, I see a difference in you. Like, there were people that would be like, you're too positive. Huh?
Yeah.
Sorry. Listen, it just works for me.
Keep those people from around you.
Okay.
It just works for me. I feel good. I feel good more often than I don't. Yeah, I remember someone very close to me was like, but don't you feel that you're being fake because you're not
dealing with like
dealing
the real
with
kind
you're not
of,
dealing with what's really happening. And I'm like, but I feel good. I feel good. Like,
yeah, but also what's gonna happen is gonna happen, and a lot of the time is in this life there's gonna be hurdles. It's the way in which you climb that hurdle and get over that hurdle. Yeah. Some people see the hurdle and be like, oh mate, I can't do it. Oh my god, it's shit day of my life. Oh my god. And some people are like, yeah, all right, cool. I'm gonna get over that. Yeah, let me climb over. It just depends on the way, because everyone's gonna get the hurdle. It just depends on the way you deal with the hurdle. And people didn't like the way you're dealing with it. And I say this a lot of the time about like people in general. Like, you need to understand your vibration. Some people are not vibrating on your frequency, you know. And a lot of the time we get around people who aren't vibrating on our frequency, and we wonder why we start feeling a little bit more low. Yeah, a certain type of way. They're vibrating on a different frequency from you. And it's okay to say, you know what? You ain't my peoples, you know. I might have known you for years, but I'm going to stay from around you.
That is difficult to do.
Of course it is.
It is difficult.
And then once you do that, then they start saying, oh, you know what? She's changed, man. Who does she think she's changed?
Thinks she's too good now.
She thinks she's too nice.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Do you know that I grew up on a council estate in South London.
Where did you? I was going to ask actually. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, to a single mother of 5 children. Wow. If I stayed around that frequency, I would have been a statistic.
Statistic.
I would have been a statistic if I stayed around that energy, and around the people. I grew up around some wrong uns.
So what was your? How did you manage to